Thank you so much, Chair. And ladies and gentlemen, we started with a caveat of 1 hour and we were given half an hour extra by uh, Mr. Razdan, and 1 hour has passed. And moderator and 3 have spoken and 5 are left. So we are back to the same formula of 5 to 6 minutes. So life comes a full cycle at times, and it's starting with me. So it's okay. So I am here basically to stitch up a story, and if you believe in the story, we'll take it ahead together. If you don't believe in the story, I'm quite sure somebody else will. So our endeavor should be to take the story ahead together as Indians and take it ahead in a very strong way. The first part, about 5 years back when I left the army and came to this industry, I heard about biomass first time. And before joining a private sector company, I spent 2 months in going from farm to factory to the finance connect. So from the finance ministry till the farmer, I saw every nook and bit of this entire industry. And I realized that in the future to come, we would have the most impetus laid on supply chain of the feedstock. Now, I'm not going to go into MSW and other kind of feedstock. I'm going to talk primarily about the biomass based feedstock, which is from the agricultural waste. Some studies have spoken differently, but let me peg for the mathematical understanding. We have 250 million metric tons or so, plus minus 20, 30, 40 million metric tons, depending on the study done by MNR or somebody else, of this biomass itself, which is usable surplus biomass. Let me give you the maths. If there is a MNC, and we'll take one name, it's already been taken, PepsiCo, and if PepsiCo takes about, it takes a lot, actually a lot, but let me bring their aspiration down. Say if they take 10,000 tons of biomass into their boiler per annum, and such, like, it's a medium scale kind of a boiler, you require only 25,000 boilers to burn this entire thing. So the math says it's doable. So 5 years ago, we went with a bowl of biomass and we said, please take, and they said, what is this? And today, she wants it, he wants it, he wants it, and everybody wants it, right? And the dimensions are changing in terms of form factor. One is a burning method when you consume the biomass, and I've given you the maths there. The other is the conversion method. In the conversion method, you can make CBG, you can make E2G, you can make SAF, and like it was brought out by Preeti ji, Corsia norms, believe it or not, we have to sign it by 2027. Are we prepared? Yes. If I speak to Dr. Y.B. Ramakrishna, he's been heading a lot of white papers. So with McKinsey, we also were part of a white paper 3 years back. Paper is with the ministry. Today is 2024. To set up the ecosystem, I'm not even talking about the capex requirement and the project time frame. If we don't take the decision next year, maybe by the time the elections and the government is formed, we'll be late for being there. So that is the challenge. Next slide, please. So my presentation is only 2 slides actually. One is challenges and one is recommendation. This is what I speak of my hat. So focus on the speak of the hat, because this you can always have. Next. Okay, this is a macro picture, very well illustrated by a lot of speakers before me. Only one point to highlight here is that the energy transition, which is to be defined till 2070, and we know the 7 scenarios and whatever has been painted by the government as well, bought in by COP since COP25 till now. It's a huge challenge. It's not easy, right? So the energy transition mix, how we want to go, is still not defined. That is the biggest challenge. While we say we will take coal in the hard to abate sector till about 2045, 2050, and then see the coal decline, the story is very clear. The story of the growth of solar is very clear. The story of the growth of EV, how it's going to happen, is now getting clearer. And also the story of the green hydrogen in the nascent stage, talking about all the colors of hydrogen, green, blue, purple, what we're talking, is also very clear. What is not clear is that in which area, how much of biomass or how much of feedstock is going to be utilized for which mechanism of energy transition in what period of time. And that is where the commercial people sitting here are quite worried, because they don't know where to put the money. Next. Now, this is other challenges. Please read them. I will just speak about a few of them. The first part, and which is the foremost in my mind, which I was covering, is how the energy transition roadmap needs to be evolved. I'll give you one example. Today, there is a push to take away the Prali, 42 million tons of, say, Punjab and Haryana and part of UP coming into the airstream in Delhi, right? You can do it in many ways. You have got Dharmender here. There are many Dharmenders being created. And while they are getting created, the biomass is getting consumed in small parts. Is there still a company today in India which takes away just not much, 1 million tons of biomass to use into briquetting plant and send it to some industry? The answer is no. Right? We have corporate structured companies, we have individually run companies, and we have a little not so poor farmers as well, who are putting one machine in their own land with no ESG norms, no other governance norms, and running it for profitability. Any farmer here, please, who himself is a farmer? Right? So this brings me to one of the most highlight points which Dr. IB says, for such discussions, if you don't have a farmer, you have made a mistake already. Right?
I don't know to say, I run a 50-acre farm.
No, I'm going to do that. I want a farmer who's struggling, right? I want a farmer who's struggling. So that's the first point. Now, there are various issues mentioned here. One of the issues is that there is no command zoning of the biomass. So today, Dharmender is setting up a plant. He's taking, say, 30,000 tons from the earth to run the briquetting plant. PEDA has already given 20 to start with LOIs, and they have probably in their mind zoned into 20 districts to put the CBG plant. There is a HPCL plant is supposed to come at Bhatinda. If you actually go to that plant, and the announcement was made on X period of timeline, today there are briquetting plants coming up there, and there are people dreaming of putting also this one who's already put up a CBG plant there. So when actually the HPCL will be set up and they will say we want 2.5 lakh tons of the biomass, then the problem will come, who will take the biomass. Now the financial modeling of I'm not taking names for just like that, just as example, so please don't misquote me. So the ethanol company wants the biomass today, say at sub 3 rupees, right? Dharmender is struggling, he says 1.5 to 2 rupees. PTG will come and say, okay, I will do something else with 4 rupees. I'll tell you where the problem is. If an entrepreneur with 30 lakhs of investment or 40 lakhs of investment today wants to make crockery and cutlery of biomass and sell it to an airline, he or she can buy it at 7 rupees today and still be profitable. And somebody wants to make this particle board for affordable housing to put the dream of MOHUA on shape for the local people, they can buy it even more expensive. So today the challenge and tomorrow's challenge is that where is the biomass? And if you don't zone, and if you don't say in this area, at best 1 CBG, no more licenses, at best X amount of whatever you want to say, then only can you survive, because tomorrow there will be already a hoard for the cost and price viability of all the projects. That's the strain. And in terms of small things, when you speak to farmers, there is an agriculture infrastructure fund. If you read that fund and if you go and meet a nice person on top of SBI, he, and in one case she, gave me a lot of gyan about how the schemes are doing, right? Very good. Doable, practical. How many of us know? I don't know. Not even 10%. When you go to the farmer who somehow comes to know in Punjab the scheme is there, and when I go and meet him or her, they say that we can't do it because our reach is not there to draw down that grant. Very small grants. You want to make custom hiring centers, you want to make anything else. 5 crores government is giving, 10% is yours, land is counted as that contribution, but still you can't draw down loan. And last but not the least, the biggest challenge, and all this you can read, you can discuss in the break after this. The biggest challenge is not the cost of finance, it will always remain a challenge. It is the structure of the supply chain stream. So if LanzaTech, LanzaJet, Beltech, anybody sitting here, today has a project cost in mind and they start, 99.9% they will fail. And they will fail primarily because A, they don't have the handle and the ownership of the supply chain, and she said 80% of cost is there. And if you have something like what has happened to our food industry, farmer, poor or rich, middlemen, varieties of them, and then what happens to the mandis and beyond. So same tomato, people are picking up from me is about 1 rupee, right? The fluctuation is somewhere else. He's not making the money. Similarly in this, the biggest challenge is that if you end up creating ecosystems in which the farmer is not a stakeholder, you will fail. I can write it in gold today. You can see it after 5 years. It's going to happen. And that's the way a lot of corporate entities, small or big, are failing in the country today, or have already failed in the country today from 2012 onwards, when the first biogas mission was launched till today, is because they didn't carry the farmer. People got smart ideas. They picked up the farmers, used them. We put a fine at some point of time in Haryana and Punjab, and you saw the effect when the fine was removed. Next slide, please. There are many recommendations. Next slide. Yeah, there's a quote by Walt Disney. Can you read it? Any young person, that lady there, I am quite appreciating your mask. So what's written on that quote? Yes, it does not mean that I quit talking. It is that the entire ecosystem should start into the action mode, right? So don't get that wrong. Go to the next slide. Next. Yeah. And put the next button also, something will come in green. Yeah. So while you read these micro and minor recommendations, it will make a lot of sense to you depending from the field you are coming. I will stress on the first green part first, which I was actually talking before this. Now imagine, hypothetically, you want to produce ethanol E2G. There are intermediaries, there are final products, and each product has got a use. So you are a farmer, I come to you and say, take 1.5 rupees per kg and give me your biomass, right? Then say something is produced as an intermediary, has got a cosmetic value, it goes to a perfume industry, it makes a lot of money, and then finally ethanol is sold, and things happen like that. Biochar is there, it goes to Dharmender, you'll get biochar, right? So, no, that's a good product to make briquettes and pellets later as well. So it's a continuous system which people will slowly understand that biochar, there is not a waste, it's for Dharmender industry as well to use, and also as whatever manure fertilizer systems can be made. But if I tell that farmer that from whatever money I have made, I will give you a X amount as a community or as an individual, what am I doing? I am putting the farmer as a stakeholder, and he is firstly giving the parali. He is making sure it's given to you. When I say parali, it's feedstock agnostic, any kind of feedstock. And then finally, he is waiting for the money to come from the accruals later. And that is one way you can make the farmer involved. This is my one of the key recommendations. I've been carrying it. I've been writing to PMO, Niti Aayog, everywhere I speak. But this must happen. And similarly, like a FPO, you can call it a FWO, a waste organization, but that's a bad name. You can select a good name and make that organization. Now, coming down to the last part. Let's skip it because I think people understand. They can ask me in Q&A. Next. Two aspects here which I would like to highlight. The green parts, direct farmer connect, ownership of the project, and then going over the commercialization of the byproducts is something which you should plan. Now let me just tell two more aspects before I finish. One is R&D and one is skill development. For the first time in our country, in the energy sector, in green hydrogen, in the budget, there has been an announcement of R&D corpus. I think it's 570 or 470 crores, right? That's something which we lack as a nation for years and years. Because today, there was one organization which prompted the DGFT to even talk about export of biomass, right? Now imagine what will happen. Export of biomass, big companies, Japanese, British will come to the country. Why? Because there's a power problem in Europe. There is a hard-to-abate sector in Japan which is feeding the world, the steel sector. If you talk to Enviva, they've already pledged 5 million tons of woody biomass pellets from Canada and US into these industries. They are looking of a 2x growth in the next 5 years to get 5 million metric tons more, right? Once you do that, and if you have your biomass, it will all go out. You see the Argus index even of today, the biomass is selling at nearly 30 times more the cost the pellet will sell in India. It's a very lucrative business. Now what to do? So I will sign with a Britisher and a Japanese today as a company, and I will say 20 years contract, legal. After 5 years, when we come to LanzaJet and they want feedstock here, they're not getting, they will go to the government, we'll go to the government, it will go to the government. They'll say stop that policy. All legal hassles will come on the country and you will have problem thereafter. So you should always make a policy which is sustainable. So we will give our parali at the cheapest cost to the farmer, to a foreign country to become green, and then we will look at the foreign countries and say, oh, which technology can give us more energy? And we will end up with nuclear and sub-nuclear and beyond nuclear and paying through our nose to get that technology for our energy needs. We are an aspirational country. We are growing at a rate in which 40% of energy consumption is going by the next 3 years. Domestic has still not picked up. People don't have microwaves still. They will still have. So that's the way we are going. Last slide. This is the best slide. Right? Okay. What do you see, young man? The lower part. The lower part, this whatever bluish part. What do you make out of this? Sky, right. Anybody else?
Mountains.
Mountain. This color? Okay, fine. Right. What else? Water, right? Good. So it's the way you look at it. So this entire segment has got either an ocean of opportunities or a sky to soar. But certainly in both cases, you can crash in the sky and you can sink in the ocean as well, right? So we are at a very precarious stage. If you don't plan the energy transition roadmap, we're going to fail. So that's what I want to tell you. Anything more than happy to discuss with you. You can take my coordinates from the organizers. We can spend time over coffee. I will serve you coffee. You will understand. Thank you.